This feels so weird and just so wrong to put a team as good as these lot in 9th place. So, winning the title this season is going to be... Okay, good evening lads, and welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be doing my Premier League predictions for the new 2023-24 Premier League season. Yes, that is right people, it is that time of the year once more where we predict the league winners, the European contenders, and who will face the drop to inevitably get a solid 90% of them wrong. There's probably going to be a fair few outrageous takes in this list, especially when we get to the European places. So make sure that you do go down into the comments section and do give me your thoughts on whether you think that I'm spot on or whether you think that I'm talking nonsense. So there we have it then people, enough of the waffle, let's get straight into the video. Do make sure that you are subscribed and smash that like button down below, otherwise your team is going to get relegated this season. So starting off with the relegation spots, I've gone for Sheffield United, Luton Town, and this next one might surprise a few people, but I'm actually going to tip Wolves to also go down. Sheffield United and Luton I think are pretty nailed on to go down this season. Usually we see newly promoted teams splash the cash with their promotional prize money, but Sheffield United and Luton haven't shown as much ambition in the transfer market as they really should be doing. Both of those squads just look very, very championship, and I don't think that either of these teams will have enough to beat the drop this season. Sheffield United have sold their star man Ndiaye to Marseille, and they're also about to sell Sander Berge to Burnley, leaving them dangerously short of depth in midfield. And to make matters worse, there's instability behind the scenes with the owners, and I think Sheffield United will come bottom this season. I think from a Luton perspective this season, just simply being in the Premier League is going to be great for them, and they can pretty much just go into every game without any weight on their shoulders and just enjoy the experience. So I think they'll come in 19th place. And as for Wolves, as I said before, this one might surprise a few people, but there's also a lot of uncertainty there with the whole FFP situation. Losing starman Ruben Neves as well as Nathan Collins to Brentford has perhaps eased the situation a little bit in regards to FFP for Wolves, but they're still very restrained, with manager Julen Lopetegui coming out in an interview recently saying that they really need new players to balance the squad and remain competitive in the Premier League, but the FFP restraints are really restricting their ability to do that. And with Wolves scoring the lowest amount of goals in the Premier League last season, it's really difficult to see where the goals are going to come from for them this season. Overall, the situation at Wolves looks very, very unstable, and with other clubs around them having that ability to strengthen, which Wolves don't seem to have, I am going to tip them to go down this season. So, battling relegation but staying up this season are Nottingham Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth and Everton. I think Forest will manage to stay up just because they have some quality in their team, and even though they haven't been anywhere near as active in the transfer market as they were last season, they're in a far stronger position than Wolves are. Everton will stay up because of how good Sean Dyche is at just getting the absolute maximum out of every team he manages. And I'm liking Bournemouth transfer business as well in bringing in Milos Kerkez from AZ Alkmaar, and also potentially Alex Scott from Bristol City as well. Fulham being quite low may be a bit of a surprise to some, considering how well they did last season, but they haven't been particularly active in the transfer market, and Alexander Mitrovic's future is a little bit up in the air at the minute. Now then, moving on to some of the upper mid-table teams, if you like, I've gone with Crystal Palace, West Ham, Burnley, as well as Brentford. Palace haven't been particularly active in the transfer market this summer, and they were a little bit underwhelming in the Premier League last season. Many people, including myself, had quite high expectations of them, but with Roy Hodgson in the dugout, they're always a pretty stable Premier League side. One surprising take in this video might be putting Burnley as high as they are in that kind of mid-table bracket, seeing as they've only just been promoted. However, they were absolutely excellent in the Championship last season, scoring tons of goals and playing excellent football in the process. This season, we're going to see a very, very different Burnley team to the team that we're used to under Sean Dyche. Vincent Kompany looks like a great up-and-coming manager who's absolutely transformed that Burnley team in such a short space of time. And with the Premier League being used to a different Burnley and Kompany's excellent talent ID, I really could see them doing something similar to the Sheffield United, Leeds and Brentford teams over the past few years. They're a very, very different side to the Dyche's Burnley, and I think many teams might be surprised at what they're in for when they play Burnley this season. And as for West Ham, they've got a very good replacement for Declan Rice in Edson Alvarez. And I also think that signing Harry Maguire and McTominay potentially would be two pretty solid signings for West Ham. And I'm sure they'll be fine this season in terms of being dragged into a relegation battle like they were some parts of last season. And as for Brentford, they're also a pretty solid Premier League team under Thomas Frank. They'll comfortably finish in the mid-table positions. And obviously Tony being out for a while will hurt them, but there's a big opportunity for players such as Brian Mbeumo and Kevin Shader to really step up this season and make a name for themselves. Now, on to the there or thereabouts for Europe this season, which inevitably is going to be very, very controversial. I probably found these ones the hardest to predict just because I don't really think that there's a lot to split these teams, and I also think that a lot of these teams have made some quality additions this summer as well. This feels so weird and just so wrong to put a team as good as these lot in 9th place, but I'm going to put Brighton in 9th. Yes, you heard that right. Brighton have obviously lost Alexis McAllister to Liverpool this summer, and Moises Caicedo also looks like he'll be on the way out as well. But then again, they are absolutely stacked with incredible young talent who'll only get better. It feels so weird just putting them here, but I think Brighton might end up being victims of their own success with the extra European games, which presents Brighton with a great opportunity to challenge for a cup competition and potentially get Champions League football next season. From a Brighton perspective, you are probably going to focus on the Europa League a lot more, which will probably lead to a hit in Brighton's league form this season. And then in 8th place, again, very, very weird and just feels so strange to put such a quality team in this position. But I've gone with Newcastle to finish 8th this season. I have to say, I was expecting far more from Newcastle this transfer window. No doubt Tonali and Barnes are absolutely top quality additions, but I don't think that they've got the adequate depth. I also think that the whole perception around Newcastle has massively changed over the past couple of years, and I think that teams will start to kind of drop back and play a bit more cautiously against them than when previously they probably would have played for the win and tried to go at Newcastle a little bit more. Newcastle managed to get into the top 4 last season just because of how strong they were defensively, but this season, with most of the league seeing Newcastle as more of a threat, they're going to have to adapt their tactics. And I just think that they lack the creativity to consistently break down those lower blocks that they haven't really had to face in recent years. In 7th place, I've gone with Aston Villa because of their superb new additions in Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby and Yuri Tielemans. I think Villa's squad depth is a bit better than Newcastle and Brighton's, and in the group stages of the Conference League and the early knockout rounds of that, I think that they can afford to rest some of their key players, which I don't think Newcastle and Brighton will be able to do in the Champions League and Europa League. I don't think they'll get into the top 6 just yet, just because I think that once it gets to the business end of the season, they'll be far more focused on bringing a trophy back home to Villa Park for the first time in a generation, which I could definitely see them doing this season, obviously with Unai Emery's record in Europe. So I think that maybe their league form might take a little bit of a hit towards the end of the season, which might end up costing them that top 6 spot. And in 6th place, this probably will come as a bit of a surprise to quite a lot of people, but I've actually gone with Tottenham. This one is going to raise quite a lot of eyebrows, and I've seen a lot of people completely write them off this season, but I think that that would be a very naive thing to do. Tottenham are a club in transition, but I think that they've got an absolute top quality coach in Ange Postecoglou this season. He's had to prove himself everywhere he's gone and has ended his time at all those clubs with success. His Celtic side over the past couple of years have been really, really exciting to watch. I'm sure that his style of play will excite a lot of Tottenham fans who've had to put up with Mourinho and Conte's dinosaur football over the past few years. And I think that the change in system presents a great opportunity for some players, such as Yves Bissouma, for example, who was very underwhelming last season, but was one of the best defensive midfielders in the league when he was at Brighton. Not having Europe will help Tottenham this season to put full focus on their league form, which I think gives them that edge over Brighton, Newcastle and Villa. And with James Maddison and Mickey van der Ven, they've got two excellent additions which will add plenty of technical quality to Tottenham's side. And with Kane staying and a couple of players returning from loan spells, Tottenham's squad is stronger than the team that quite a few people tipped for a title charge this time last year. And in fifth place, I've gone with Chelsea, who are another club in transition but don't have Europe this season. Chelsea have spent a lot of money recently, and I think the main focus for them in this summer window has been to trim that really bloated squad. Bringing in Mauricio Pochettino was probably Chelsea's best managerial option with their young squad. With a lot of raw talent in, Pochettino obviously has a great track record at developing young players from his time at Tottenham. I think at centre-back they are set for years to come with the signing of Axel Disasi and Levi Colwill returning from a loan spell at Brighton and signing a new long-term contract. I do think that they need to massively improve some of their midfield depth, but there is plenty to be excited about for Chelsea fans. They're stacked with high potential young players who are only going to get better. I think this season top four might be a little bit of a stretch too far, but they'll be much better this season, and they can use this season without Europe to develop some of their young players. Now, moving on to the top four places, I'm putting Liverpool in fourth place and Manchester United in third place. I really do like Liverpool and Man United's transfer business this season, with Liverpool changing their midfield profiles from more workmanlike fielders like Jordan Henderson and James Milner and replacing them with more technical midfielders such as Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai, whilst Man United have addressed many of the key areas that they needed to address in this transfer window. However, with that being said, I am giving United a slight edge over Liverpool this season just because I think that they have a more balanced squad. Liverpool have improved by adding new midfielders that will increase their offensive strength. However, that was never an issue for Liverpool last season. I think Liverpool may live to regret not going for Josko Gvardiol, who I think would have been an excellent signing to play in that kind of left-back slot, which would have then allowed Trent to play more centrally in a role that he's been absolutely thriving in recently. They also badly need a defensive midfielder, with Bajcetic still being pretty raw. They are trying to get Romeo Lavia from Southampton, but he's still incredibly young and has only played one season of first-team football. Manchester United, on the other hand, have obviously invested in a ball-playing goalkeeper in Andre Onana, as well as Mason Mount, who gives them that extra quality in the second phase. I think Rasmus Højlund will take some time to find his feet in the Premier League. He's obviously a very, very talented striker with the potential to be a world beater, but he's still very raw at this moment in time. I have seen some people who are tipping United to finish higher than third this season and maybe even push for the title, but in my opinion they're still a little bit behind Arsenal and Man City in terms of squad depth. If United want to potentially compete for league titles in years to come, they're going to have to set up differently in my opinion. Last season they could be devastating on the transition and very effective at breaking through the lines through Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen playing long balls and supplying Rashford up top, but that isn't always going to work against low block teams. United lagged behind many teams around them last season in terms of goals, and I think that it's something that they're going to need to address if they want to compete with Man City for the title this season. So in second place, I'm going with my club, Arsenal. This season is going to be a completely different challenge for us. I mean, obviously last year we were kind of underdogs and we outperformed expectation. This time around, we're not the underdogs anymore. We have spent a lot of money and there's going to be high expectations of us pushing for the title this season. As I did say in my previous video about Arsenal's pre-season, I am really liking our new additions. And after that Community Shield game on Sunday, I feel a lot more confident about that defence, which was pretty shaky in some of the pre-season games. I think that by investing in the technical security that Jurrien Timber gives us at the back, the power and dynamism that Declan Rice gives us, and the versatility that Kai Havertz also gives us, We're going to be a lot more tactically flexible this season, and we're going to have that ability to set up differently against different opponents, which we didn't really have last season. I'm going to be boring and tip City to beat us to the title again this year, just because of how good their squad depth is. And I think that at this stage they are a better football team than Arsenal, but I think that we are starting to slowly kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So, winning the title this season is going to be Manchester City. Just like it has been pretty much every single year in the past, 5-6 years. And for a fourth time in a row, they're going to do it, which I think might even be a first in the history of English football. And I just think that they are the best team in the country by some distance. And I don't really see anyone being able to knock them off their perch this season. So there we have it, people. Those are my Premier League predictions. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Obviously, make sure that you do like and subscribe. You know what happens if you don't. And also, do make sure that you comment your thoughts down in the comment section down below on who you think will get relegated, who you think is going to win the league, and some of your maybe more unpopular opinions. So, thank you guys for your support as always. Have a good one, lads.